Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be doing my quarterback rankings video, and after the last video the running back rankings did so well, I decided to get right into the quarterbacks of this draft class, and it is such an interesting class. So I mean, it's not the best in the world, but it's very interesting to see, and a whole lot of these players could end up being starters. A whole lot of them could end up kind of falling flat on their face, and that's what makes this class so very interesting as we get into my QB10. And like I said, I'm very excited. I've been doing these rankings for a little bit. I've been waiting to get this video out to all of you, and just get right into it. Like I said, QB10, Riley Leonard, guy out of Notre Dame, but he used to play for Duke. He's 6'4", 214, a little bit undersized for the position, but he's got good height. One of the worst things about Leonard's game, and the reason that he's ranked kind of lower on this chart for me than a lot of these other guys, is just that advanced accuracy is so very poor. And that's such an important part for a quarterback's game, you know, his advanced accuracy. It's probably the worst in this entire class, in my opinion. So that's definitely what dings him down a couple spots for me. My pro comparison for him is Ryan Tannehill, and I do see a lot of similarities in their games. A couple of dudes that just kind of sit in the pocket. Leonard is a little bit more athletic. He has that B+ speed over there, some good rushing creativity, and he's a quarterback, so he doesn't have crazy change of direction or excel, but at the same time he has good speed, and he's almost like a more mobile version of a Ryan Tannehill. Earliest I'd take a player like him is 6th round. I could see him going to a team like the Bills and being a really nice backup for Josh Allen. I'm not saying he's anything like Josh Allen. I just think he would be a good kind of different type of player if the Bills wanted to go and get a nice backup. I do kind of see him more as a NFL backup level quarterback. I don't see some of the starter potential that some people have on him. I know he went to the college football championship game, ended up losing to Ohio State. You know, he's shown that he has some of that it factor, that he can make it that far. I liked watching him play at Duke, and at Notre Dame he looked pretty solid as well. But there's a couple of things in his game that really just need to be worked on, and that quick accuracy, off platform, a couple of things with the accuracy. His intermediate is nice. He has solid arm strength, a solid release. There's a couple of things in his game that should definitely be worked on. The pocket feel is decent as well. Then when pressure breaks down, Leonard tends to, not be able to manage that. And he has great speed, so he should be able to break free, but there's a lot of times you see him taking sacks that he shouldn't be. The processing could be worked on a little bit. It's kind of plainly average. I would just call Riley Leonard your, average Joe at quarterback. 6th round, like I said, could see him being taken there. He's got a bit of experience. He's played 3 years at Duke and then transferred to Notre Dame. And I see Ryan Tannehill like things within him and possibly a Tannehill level upside. And that's probably as high as it goes for a player like Riley Leonard. As we get on to Quinn Ulmer, my QB9 of the class, out of Texas, formerly of Ohio State. I believe he only played there for a season. And he was one of the most highly rated recruits coming out of school, I want to say a couple of years ago. Later on, it was Dylan Raiola, and then there's another quarterback that came up recently. I can't remember what his name is. I believe he's going to Michigan. But for a while, Quinn Ulmer was one of the most highly rated recruits in all of the country, and he was heavily recruited by a lot of different teams. Ended up going to Ohio State, transferring, like I said. 5th round is where my value is for him right now. He was getting 1st round talk at the beginning of this year, beginning of the college football season. He's on the college football 25 cover. He expectations were sky high for him. He ends up getting benched for Arch Manning because of that horrible pocket feel. Some of the worst in the class. Horrible pocket feel, horrible pressure management, and just not being able to escape defenders closing in on him. And the thing about Quinn Ewers is he has a lot of potential as a quarterback. I mean, that arm strength is really nice. The accuracy is solid. Advance could be worked on. And the release is something to definitely talk about as well. He's pretty nice when it gets down to it. I have a high-end comp of Derek Carr on him. I've seen Gardner Minshew as well. I would definitely agree with that. And a low-end comp of a Sam Howell. Not Sam Howell when he played at UNC. I'm talking Sam Howell, getting drafted by Washington, throwing like 20 picks in a season. That's what I see if you threw Quinn Ewers out there and just made him start right away. You give him a little bit of time, develop him. I can see him being nice on a team like Kansas City, back up to Mahomes, or a team like the Raiders, and developing over time. He could be pretty nice. But he is not very athletic. As you can see, and when the pressure breaks down, he can't really go anywhere because he has no speed. Change of direction is poor, excel, and he's not a creative rusher whatsoever, So that's the main things that ding down for me. But most important things for a quarterback are the processing and mainly the throwing tools. And release is important as well. So he may be a bit clueless like a Derek Carr when the pressure kind of breaks down in front of him, but he does have a slightly better processor than a player like Derek Carr has, in my opinion. So that's why I kind of have him a little bit above a player like Riley Leonard. I see a lot higher upside in a player like yours. It just really depends what team takes him in the draft. So we'll have to see what happens there. But at the end of the day, he has a couple of good traits, and his last season at Texas was not very good, but prior seasons, he's not bad, but he also has injury concerns. So there's multiple different things that you have to take into account when you draft a player like Quinn Ewers, and he wants to be the starter on a team. So I don't know, but I rank him as my QB9 in the class, and I think he has some decent potential, but not the most in the world. And like I said, his athletic tools, not very good. Throwing tools are nice, and he's got solid processing, but he's not the best quarterback in the world. Then we get to a player that has been talked about a lot by the media recently, and I've been hearing that he is some people's highest graded quarterback in this entire class. There's no way in hell that I was going to grade Tyler Shough out of Louisville that high. And maybe you could look back at this video in a year from now and call me an absolute idiot, but I don't see much upside in a player like Shough. Gave him a pro comp on here of Kirk Cousins. I see flashes of Kirk Cousins in the way he throws the ball and a couple of different things in his rushing creativity. Not very good. And when the plays break down, that pocket feel is not that good too. I see a couple of things with Kirk Cousins within Tyler Shough. I'm not saying he's gonna be Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying that's kind of like his general upside, his general pro comp. And I'm not saying he's the worst in the world. I have him ranked as my quarterback 8B, quarterback 8. I have another quarterback ranked the same overall grade as him, but just slightly above him, and that's my 8A or my 7. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. He has that size, that's 6'4", 224. He's got the experience, played at Oregon and Texas Tech. Some people have him as QB3 in this class, QB2. I don't really see it. The games I watched, he threw a couple of boneheaded INTs. The arm strength is solid. The accuracy could be worked upon a bit. Release is the best thing in this whole game. He's got really nice release. He releases the ball so quickly. And when the pressure breaks down, he's not that speedy to be able to get away from it, but he does have good excel. So there's a couple of plays you'll see where he's just kind of, everything's breaking down. He starts to get pressured a bit, and he's able to improv with his legs a little bit. He's got that excel. So I don't really have much to say about Tyler Shough. I feel like he's like a plain Jane at quarterback. Like I said, he has that experience. He's 25 years old. Quarterbacks play for a long time in the league. They play to be almost 40 years old at this point, like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers. But I just don't see incredible upside with a player like Tyler Shough that everybody else seems to say. I see a plainly average quarterback, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope he ends up succeeding. But, accuracy, not that good. Arm strength, fine. Release, good. Everything else, you see it right here. I mean, it's just pretty much an average quarterback, put him in there, let him start. Maybe he turns into a Kirk Cousins level guy, or maybe he falls flat on his face. We'll have to see what team ends up drafting him. As we get on to my 8A or 7, and that is Will Howard out of Ohio State. And he's interesting too, because like he's on the same radar, same like level to me as Shook. I'd give him that slight bump. He takes this team to the college football championship game. He wins them that game. I think he's kind of got a bit of that dog in him, just a little bit. And rounds 4 to 5 draft value, yes, I can say. And then he formerly played at Kansas State before transferring to Ohio State in his final season. And I like a couple of things about him. I compare him to a less kind of athletic Will Levis coming out. Will Levis, you know, this is basically Will Levis coming out if he had like a super team around him, and then kind of just, you know, had that draft hype. That's what I kind of see with Will Howard, because Levis didn't have anything at Kentucky. He had a poor offensive line, poor weapons to throw to. Will Howard had Emeka Egbuka, Trey Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins in the backfield, and an absolutely stellar, just all-around cast around him. The defense has, you know, first-round, second-round guys coming out. So Will Howard, you know, he had that team around him, and I compare him definitely to Will Levis a little bit on a certain level. And then rounds 4 to 5, I can see him going in. But getting into some parts of his game, he got the throwing tools. He's got that above average arm strength. I've seen him load the ball up a couple of times, throw it downfield. The speed is nothing to boast about, but when the plays break down, he can tend to excel decently, get out of the way. The improv ability, you know, he's not an improv. He's more of a pocket passer quarterback. If it does break down, he has some speed to be able to get out of there. And that release is nice. There's a couple of quarterbacks in this class who have really nice release, really nice to watch. And then the accuracy is nice, and that's kind of the core fundamentals of a quarterback, you know, is accuracy, arm strength, release. And when a play breaks down, where can he go? Processing is important too. It's average, but I think there's a couple of things that, depending on what team he goes to, could even learn from a mentor guy. And these are things that can be worked upon. You know, his off-platform accuracy can improve, his overall accuracy even. Pocket feel, improbability, and his creativity, you know, that's just, and the change of direction's poor. You know, a lot of quarterbacks aren't going to have good change of direction. But I think for the most part, there's a lot of things that Will Howard can improve on. And like I said, whatever team ends up drafting him probably is finding a bit of a diamond in the rough type of player. Give him some time to develop, and I could see him panning out a bit better, decent amount better than a Will Levis. You know, they just threw him onto Tennessee, kind of didn't really give him much. Put Will Howard on a decent team, and I feel like he does pretty well with the surrounding cast. I'm not saying he's going to win Super Bowls, but I'm saying he has a decent amount of upside. Into QB 6. All right. This is getting into the meat of this quarterback rankings video. So we get down to Dillon Gabriel. And Dillon Gabriel is a player that isn't ranked this high for a lot of other people, but I really personally like Dillon Gabriel a whole lot. He's very experienced, 24 years old, spent 6 years in college, has 64 overall starts, beating out Bo Nix's 61. He played for UCF, University of Central Florida, and Oklahoma before transferring in his final season to Oregon. Now, the main gripe a lot of people have with him is that shortness, that height-weight differential, which is tough. You know, it's tough for smaller quarterbacks to succeed in the league. You've seen Bryce Young, you've seen Kyler Murray. They're both good quarterbacks, but their size makes it harder for them to succeed at the next level. Dillon Gabriel could be on the level of those quarterbacks in the end. You know, he could still be pretty good. My pro comp for him is Tua Tagovailoa. A lot of those Hawaiian roots there, you know, that's a similarity. But at the same time, they also play the game in a very similar manner. And I believe that Dillon Gabriel actually broke the record for his high school and touchdowns, which was previously held by Tua. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, and could easily be drafted by the Miami Dolphins as a really good backup to Tua Tagovailoa. And my draft value grade for him is the 4th round. I think he's such a value pick in the 4th round as well. You get him, and You know, I may be doing a 3-round mock draft soon. You might see me picking up Dillon Gabriel, even in the 3rd round. You know, because he's got that experience as well. You know, maybe he's short. He can't really control. He can control maybe how much weight he puts on. He can't really control his height. You know, he can't do anything about that. But with the tools that he does have, I think he does a really good job. He's a more speedy, diced-up version of a Tua Tagovailoa. He's able to have that excel. When the play breaks down, he's got good pressure management. The processing could be worked on a little bit, but I think that quick processing is really good. Release is some of the best in the class. Like, I really like his release. He gets that ball off quick. And he was a Heisman finalist this past season. He's won multiple awards during his 6 years in college. He's been playing since 2019, so plenty of experience there. And I think you let him sit for a little bit, and he turns out like a Tua Tagovailoa, and you don't really question that. But I think if a team picks him, throws him right out into the fire, he ends up turning into a Bryce Young type pickup, and that's not something I want to see out of him. I want to see some time for him to be able to grow and develop as a quarterback. And obviously the arm strength isn't that good, which is more, again, where you see the mirror of Tua Tagovailoa. Arm strength, not that good. Accuracy is very nice. So he doesn't, I'm not saying he has a noodle. He would get a D if he had like a noodle arm. But I'm saying at the same time, it's something that can be maybe worked on, or maybe he's just stuck with that arm strength in the end and he can't really improve upon it. But like I said, I'm very high on Dillon Gabriel, and I would like to see him improve upon some of these elements of his game because I like him a lot. And the speed makes him a noteworthy pick, in addition to that release and the accuracy, you know, and then some of the pressure management stuff too. That can be worked upon, and the processing isn't the worst in the world, so I won't really worry about it. But yeah, that's my quarterback 6 of the class. Let's get to my QB5. All right, gonna need some water after I'm done with this video because we're doing a lot of talking today, and it is so fun. I'm so excited to get into these players. As we get to my QB5, Kyle McCord out of Syracuse, the former Ohio State Buckeye who transferred in his final season. He did very poorly at Ohio State, did beat my Penn State Nittany Lions, but we won't talk about that game because, you know, I was watching it the whole time. I believe I was at a wedding that day, and they just lost in the end because Drew Aller just could not push the ball down the field. But anyways, despite us losing to a player like Kyle McCord, who isn't the best in the world, he transfers to Syracuse in his final season. Not many think much of it, and his first game he absolutely dominates. I believe he dominated that game. And throughout the season, you see him breaking multiple Syracuse records. I believe he broke the record for touchdown passes or overall touchdowns in a season, and that's pretty astounding for a player like Kyle McCord to do. Obviously, he goes to Syracuse, less competition there, but he did a really good job. And watching some of his film, it's reminiscent of a Brock Purdy. He's like a value Brock Purdy, dollar store Brock Purdy type prospect. You get this dude in the 3rd round, and I feel like you're getting incredible value, and if you can train him up a little bit, then I see Brock Purdy level in his future, very possibly. And then low-end comp for me would be definitely Mitchell Trubisky. I could see some elements of that in his game as well. Just a couple of things, the pocket feel when the plays break down, kind of reminiscent of Trubisky. But I'm higher on Brock Purdy. I'm higher with that Brock Purdy level of it compared to the Trubisky side, and I think Kyle McCord is a very nice quarterback. Just delving into a couple of things, the height weight's very nice, you know, pretty average for a quarterback. The weight's a little bit above average. Getting into his arm strength, it can be improved upon, but, you know, it's solid, decent for a quarterback, and his accuracy is really nice, including that off-platform. You'll probably see me mentioning a couple of quarterbacks in this class have really poor off-platform accuracy, and that's a very important grade for me in diving into their grades. So if that off-platform accuracy is higher, then they're probably getting a higher grade from me, because it's such an important thing. When the play breaks down and you have to hit an off-platform throw, what does the quarterback end up doing? And for Kyle McCord, he does a really good job, and his overall accuracy is really, really good. And then the release can be worked upon. I didn't see him getting that ball out as quick as you would like, and he's not a speedy quarterback either by any means. I would even ding him a little bit below. You know, Brock Purdy, he can't really run much. He might be a little bit more athletic than a player like Purdy. He's got that excel, and he's got good pressure feel as well. So, and then the processing is really nice too. So there are a lot of things to like with Kyle McCord's game, and he has a lot higher upside than a lot of the quarterbacks in this class, in my opinion. So that's what makes him my quarterback 5 in the end. And at the same time, he should not be thrown out into the fire like a lot of these guys in his first season. He needs some time to grow. He needs some time to develop. But I see some good potential in his future, and I'm excited to see where he ends up going in the draft. All right, as we get to my QB4, and that is Jaylen Miler, the QB out of Alabama, 6'2", 225. This dude is interesting, to say the least, to watch. He's just, I don't even know. His floor is like that of just absolutely being horrible, and his ceiling is that of a Jalen Hurts level, possibly a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But I don't really know, because he could go either way. The speed and everything is something you talk about. He's even been talked about converting to running back, and once he gets to the league, you know, that's been talked about. Outside of that rushing ability, there's not too much to boast about with Jaylen Miler. He's got good release of the ball, very nice arm strength. Some of the accuracy can be worked on, the off platform and the advanced and intermediate, but the quick accuracy is pretty good. He's a 22-year-old, you know, he has those 4 years at Alabama, and I could see some team picking him and him turning out into a Malik Willis because they just throw him out there right away. And this is the quarterback of the entire class that you do not want to throw out there right away, because Jaylen Miler will fall flat on his face if you put him out there, and he will just run the whole time. He'll be like Jalen Hurts in his rookie season. Like, he threw the ball when he needed to, but he mostly was just running and showing off that speed, and that's kind of all he could do because he didn't have the best team around him. You can see that out of Jaylen Miler as well. A couple of similarities too there. Both went to Alabama, both named Jalen, but that's besides the point. Getting into it, I mean, the rushing ability is something to talk about. He has the best speed of any quarterback in this whole class. He's a bit of a speedier version of a Jalen Hurts or even a Malik Willis, I would say. Change of directions, nice excel, you know, all those things. But that's when we get to some more of the weaknesses in this game, and that processing is just absolutely horrendous to watch. Watching him, you know, like, it's just like watching a tool bag throw the freaking football, you know, like, and I'm not saying he's a tool bag, but I'm just saying it's like watching like a, you know, just watching somebody who's never played the game of football before just throw the football around, sometimes with the boneheaded decisions that I've seen happen to him. And then he's just like, oh no, I'm not going to sense the pressure around me. Or he'll sense it and then just say, oh, I'm just going to run, instead of looking at multiple reads down the field. It is almost infuriating to watch some of this Jaylen Miler film, because you know on a team like Alabama, he has great weapons around him. But the processing just needs to come along for him to be an NFL level quarterback, and until that point, he's got a lot of things to work on. And like I said, I'm not calling him a tool bag. You know, he seems to play the game the right way, and I've liked where his draft value is at this point, second to third round. If he goes first round, that's too early for me. But I do like a player like Jaylen Miler, although I don't see as high of upside in him. I see a higher floor in him than a player like maybe Kyle McCord, or, you know, like a Will Howard or any of those other players. But at the same time, it could go either way really for him. He could be a Malik Willis, or he could develop for a few years and become maybe close to that Jalen Hurts level. It's just going to really, really depend for a player like him what team he goes to. If he goes to a team like the Giants, could see him getting absolutely obliterated. Goes to a team like the Jets, maybe sits behind Justin Fields for a little bit, could be good. Really just depends. If he goes to the Browns and you throw him out into the fire the first year, I don't really know what you're getting out of Jaylen Miler besides an absolute speed demon. We should just literally play running back for them at that point, because they don't really have any good running backs. But yeah, if he works on some of these things, though, he could be nice. But he is probably the most polarizing quarterback in this whole draft class. Could be amazing, and he could be absolutely shit. So that's what I have to say about Jaylen Miler. I like him, like I said. He's fast, super fast, but there's a couple of things that he's got to work on in his game. All right, and we're getting to the top 3. Jackson Dart, I have 0.15 higher points than a player like Jaylen Miler, because I do actually see what some people talk about in Jackson Dart, and some people are a lot lower on a player like him than myself. But getting into the nitty-gritty of things, I see Jackson Dart, and I see him being closer to that pro comp of Bo Nix as the high-end comp than a player like Kenny Pickett, although I could definitely see what people talk about when they say, those shades of Kenny Pickett. And I think if he goes to a team like the Steelers, he will just end up turning out like another Kenny Pickett. But in one of my recent mock drafts, I end up putting him on a team like the Los Angeles Rams, and I could see him succeeding and turning into a Bo Nix level quarterback. He needs a good mentor, and after he has that, I feel like sits for a season or 2, he could end up being a really nice starter in the league. And like I said, with that Bo Nix high level of pro comp, that could end up happening for him. And he's decently well-rounded too. He's got some of the better arm strength in this entire class. He's got the size needed. Also a decent amount of experience. He played that season at USC, transferred to Ole Miss. He's kind of been around, and he's still a young guy, but he has some decent experience through that, through the transfer portal. And that arm strength is definitely something to boast about. Release is something I really liked as well. And the accuracy, and those are some of the core things for a quarterback. So it's awesome to see that. He's good with the speed as well, the change of direction. And I'm pretty high on Jackson Dart, a lot higher than a couple of people are, but I have him as my quarterback 3 in the class. I like him a lot. The processing could be worked on a little bit, and some of that pocket feel. But as you can see right here, he's pretty well-rounded overall. And the few things in his game that are kind of weaknesses, he can definitely be worked upon over time. And like I said, that arm strength is really something special. And the accuracy is pretty good to boot with it. So that's my QB3 of the class, Jackson Dart. And I really hope he ends up turning out. I don't know. Some people are having him go in the first round. I mean, I give him draft value of rounds 2 to 3. If a team like the Rams take him, say, first round. Me personally, I'm such a big fan of that pick. I would be happy. It would probably be overdrafting him a little bit because he is still kind of a developmental guy. Pick him rounds 2 to 3. I think you're getting great value. Definitely a round 2 player at the latest, round 3. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Jackson Dart. I like him a lot, and I see him closer to that Bo Nix level of a high pro comp. All right. As we get to Shadur Sanders, QB2 in this draft class, and this is a player that makes this draft class so very interesting. 6'1", 215. Obviously, he's Deion Sanders' son. And my pro comp is a more athletic version of Geno Smith, and that's Geno Smith in his prime too. So I'm giving him some credit here. And I think a lot of people end up hating on a player like Shadur Sanders, and I could get into this for so long, but I feel like a player like him is just, he gets so much hate because he is very much authentically himself. And when he goes through these interviews and stuff, and people are confused about why he's acting the way he is, he's just being himself. And isn't that what you want out of your quarterback at the end of the day? Even if he is a little bit, like being too much, at least he's being authentically himself. And yeah, I feel like he gets so much hate from the media as he's Deion's kid, and they think, his draft stock goes up just because of that. Yes, it does seemingly go up a little bit because obviously you want that coveted player. He has the genes for it and everything. But overall, he's also not a bad player. Like, I give him a first round grade, and I thought I was gonna grade him out worse. I kept telling everybody I knew, I'm like, Shadur Sanders is not a first round quarterback. He should not be going in the top 5. Then I watched some of his film, and if he goes to the Raiders or the Saints, I can see him panning out, but he needs a little bit of development time. But at the same time, unlike other quarterbacks in this class, I feel like you could just kind of throw him out there and see what he's got, Let him get a feel for the game a little bit more. He's 23 years old, played formerly at Jackson State with a much lower level of competition, but once he got to Colorado, played some better competition. There's a couple of games where they really fell flat on their face, like the Stanford game, and I mean, you just got to attribute that also to the overall team. He played behind a horrible offensive line, with Travis Hunter being the best weapon. He was playing both sides of the ball, so maybe he wasn't at his best all the time. But I think Shadur Sanders has that decent level of like a high pro comp, where he could be like a Geno Smith type quarterback. He could be a Tua Tagovailoa, which he's been compared to a lot. And I like him. And getting into some more of his game, you know, I give him 6.55 rating. That is kind of more in the upper echelon, maybe like studs level tier, you know. It's not quite that elite level, but he's a star level quarterback in my rankings. I'm not saying he's going to go into the league and be that right away, but I'm saying that's the typical upside that he has. And the arm strength is very nice. Pressure management, he knows how to deal with that a lot since playing at Colorado. The accuracy is very nice as well. Quick accuracy is good. The intermediate and the advanced can be worked upon, but that off-platform, like I said, take that into account a lot. That is very good. You're seeing a lot of bright colors for a player like Shadur Sanders. You see these bright color grades because he is a decently well-rounded quarterback. Obviously, you got the accuracy concerns, and the pocket feel isn't the best, but overall, it's B pluses, Bs, and A's all across the board for a player like him. I mean, nothing is really in that elite category for Shadur. He's got the height, weight, he's got decent experience. He's 23 years old, coming out. His father is a former Hall of Fame cornerback. So he's got everything that you like out of a player like that, and that you want out of a franchise quarterback. It just really depends if he can kind of put it all together. He's got decent speed, decent excel, and he's very creative when rushing the football. And very nice change of direction too. A couple of quarterbacks in this class have that kind of next level speed, next level of change of direction. And the release too. This quarterback class has a lot of great players that release the ball really well, and he is one of them. So, and then the processing's pretty good too. He's gotten that feel for it overall, and the improbability, you know, solid. So all around, like I said, I give him a first round draft value. And Shadur Sanders I actually like a lot. Originally, I didn't like him that much getting into some of his old tape, you know, watching some of these games where you're not really watching, but you watch as an outside viewer and you're like, damn, he just like sucks. But I got into some of his film, and watching a couple of these games that the Colorado Buffaloes played, he was kind of doing the best that he could. And if you really delve into it, you can see that he was showing off some traitsy stuff, you know. He was showing off some good traits to be a franchise level of quarterback in the future. So I see decent upside with him. He's going to start off with some of the highest floor of a quarterback in this entire draft class, and just like everybody else, it depends where he ends up landing. Finally, we get to my highest rated quarterback of this draft class, and I am absolutely such a big fan of Cam Ward out of Miami. This dude, every single time I watch him play, it reminds me of a little Ben Roethlisberger, and except he's faster. He has great acceleration, and he's got decent experience too. Played at Incarnate Word, transferred to Washington State, then transferred in his final season to Miami. Cam Ward is such a fun quarterback, and a lot of people aren't rating him in that elite tier in this draft class. Obviously, he's not on the level of a Caleb Williams or a Trevor Lawrence or a Joe Burrow, and I would not rate him that highly. He is in that bottom of the elite tier, that lower level, but he's still an elite level prospect. Low end comp of a Sam Darnold type player on here, and then, like I said, high end comp of Ben Roethlisberger. That pressure management is some of the best that you'll see in the class. They give it an elite grade, good pocket feel. Watching him play with the pocket feel is just so fun to see. Like, he knows when to throw that ball away, but for the most part, he's assessing this pressure that's going on around him, and then using whatever ability he needs to. If he needs to get that ball out, needs to throw it away, but for the most part, a play will break down. He's able to excel, use his rushing creativity, and get out of there. He's not the speediest quarterback in the world, obviously, with a 6'2", 223 frame. He's kind of a bigger guy, but at the same time, when the play breaks down, he is really good at knowing when to get out of there, whether to throw the ball, quick, intermediate, advanced, all the way down the field if he needs to. And I'm not saying he has a rocket of an arm, you know, he's not assessing the pressure like a Patrick Mahomes and then throwing the ball with a cannon. You know, that would make him one of the best quarterbacks you'd ever see. But the arm strength could be improved upon. And just having that pressure management is so important for a quarterback, especially he's probably getting drafted to the Tennessee Titans overall, first overall. And they have a fine offensive line, but they have some weaknesses in there. I don't think their guards are the best in the world. So he's going to need to assess this pressure when he's playing the game. That accuracy is definitely something to look out for, though. I think that's the highest I have intermediate accuracy rated in this entire class. And advanced off platform, like quick, is very nice overall. And the release is really good as well. And you just see him, and you don't see me giving him really a negative grade at all. A B- for the off platform is as low as it goes. He's just very well rounded. Like I said, I put him in that elite tier. He's got all the experience. He's got all of the tools that he needs. Put him together like Shadur Sanders needs to do as well, and you have yourself a franchise quarterback. Those two are the guys that I can instantly say, whatever team they go to, no matter how much time it takes, I see franchise level in both of them. Obviously, it could turn around and he could be a Sam Darnold type player with that low end comp. Journeyman who kind of sees a meteoric rise maybe 5 years down the line, or, you know, like a Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold type guy. But I am so much higher on him than like a player like Sam Darnold even coming out. I give him closer to that Ben Roethlisberger level. Obviously, he's not going to come out and be a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's going to take some time. It's going to take him developing that processing game as well. Processing's fine. It's going to take him developing that arm strength. But if he develops his arm strength, there is, for me, not much stopping a player like Cam Ward from being one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's going to start off probably be a top 25 type quarterback, but there's really nothing stopping him from being top 10, top 5. That really depends on a whole lot of variables, so we'll have to see how it goes when he gets drafted to Tennessee, most likely at number 1. And that leads us to the end of this video. And like I said, everybody, that takes us to the end of this video. If you did like my quarterback rankings, please let me know down below. I would love to start a discussion on some of these guys with some other members of the draft community, some other members of the NFL community. And I was really happy to finally get this video out for you guys. Worked on it for a while, went through multiple takes, because it was just so hard to get all this information that I know about all these guys out there, and, you know, just to even grade these players out. Like I said, very interesting quarterback class, and it was very fun to do. And yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video as the NFL draft gets closer and closer every single day. See you guys. Peace out.